Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic, here with the legendary Luc Lemay of Gorguts. How are you doing, brother?
Good yourself.
I'm doing pretty good. I probably still butchered your last name, but I at least gave it a shot there, so...
It's all good. It's all good. Thanks for having me. No problem.
Absolutely. You know, and it's funny, I've been reading a lot of interviews with you this week, seeing what you've been talking about, because Colored Sands has been out for a while, and I'm like, wow, I'm way out of my depth here. This is too highbrow intellectual for me. What am I going to say to this man? He's not going to laugh his ass off with me. But I'll do my best. So
I don't have any doubt for you. Don't worry.
Well, Colored Sands received remarkable acclaim last year, and you ended up on many year-end lists, including Metalholic, our very own number. You came in number 2 on the list of our top 50 for the year. It has to be very gratifying after such a sizable break between albums.
I couldn't be happier, you know, with the way people reacted to the music and welcomed the music, and how enthusiastic they were waiting for the music as well, because frankly, being out of the scene for this long, 11 years, a lot of water went under the bridge, you know, and people can easily forget about you and everything. And I'm so grateful that they always kept a little corner in their interest, you know, for us. So that's I never expected this type of reception. Can we say that?
Right.
You know, of the way people receive the music, you know. So it's just great. It's great.
Absolutely, and it's funny because when you were talking about doing this, it all started because Steve said, hey, it's like the 20th anniversary of the band. Well, here we are now, a year after it came out. You're actually at the 25th anniversary of when you founded the band. Does that seem sort of surreal to you that so much time has gone by since you first conceived the idea for Gorguts?
Yeah, totally. You know, thinking about it now, I would have never expect. I mean, yes and no. I mean, not that I didn't expect doing it this long, but there's something good in this, in a way that I don't ask myself questions. I just do it for the first reason, because I really love it. And at some point, I kind of, for this hiatus, you know, of 11 years, I kind of put it on the side, because my heart was just no more into it. So this, to answer your question, I think having your heart in doing something must be the primary reason, you know, other than money or whatever other reason, you know. It has to pick your curiosity and having your heart into it. So this way, by being in this state of mind and loving doing something, time just fly, and you're like, we've already been doing it for this long. So in a position when you do something you don't really like, it's like, dude, I mean, can we get over that thing, you know? So it's all a matter of having your heart into it. So, but I wouldn't, in the first place, I would have never expected to do interview for a record 25 years later. But this is awesome.
Absolutely. And at the quarter century mark, sort of looking back, the band has had such a significant influence on the genre. I know you're a pretty humble guy, but how do you view or feel about the band's esteemed status in that regard?
Thanks to the fans. I mean, you can do music in your living room, but if there's no people to react to it, that's what art is all about. You do a painting, and if you leave it in your attic, you did it for yourself, and it's fine, you know. But by having someone reacting to it, you know, at some point, it's fans are a big reason, you know, why we lasted this long, and we had the impact that we had as well, because because we created a reaction at some point. So so
Right.
Our craft created brought the listeners out of their comfort zones. It was not always easy for us, in a way that like for instance, when we wrote Obscura and everything, some people really liked it, and some people just said it was total garbage. But with a step back now, maybe a lot of people see it differently, because they saw that we had more intention of of creating a new road or being more curious in experimenting new stuff. So yeah, but at the end of the day, fans were always bold enough and kind enough, to welcome those things, and I think we forged ourselves our own following through this time. A bit like a band like Voivod, they always did things their own way, but at the end of the day, they have their particular crowd, So yeah.
I got you. You surrounded yourself with some amazing talents for Colored Sand.
Yeah.
And while it is still,
Amazing.
and while it's still certainly Gorguts, the songs defy comparison to the band's past output. Is that primarily your growth as a person and composer, or the impact of your new bandmates, or maybe a combination of both?
Combination of both. It was always important for me not to do the same record twice. And if you listen to each of our records, they have very, I think, strong personalities. And Wisdom is different than Obscura. Obscura is different than Colored Sand. And of course, the first two are more old school death metal. We were like learning our craft with those two records. But to me, the first real record of the band would be, I think, Obscura, because that's where our sound really, we found our own identity, so to speak. But this being said, of course, that Colin, Kevin, and John had an impact on the music. But the thing is that why I chose them, it's because I really, I was totally in awe for their music personality, their music style, So me, by writing a song, I'm not going to dictate them how to play each of their part in details, because at this point it wouldn't worth it to have them involved in the music, So because I really wanted to hear their voice, but voice in a way as them playing their instruments. So of course they had an impact, but also I wanted to do a more progressive record in a way, because lately, while I was writing this record, I discovered music from Steven Wilson. I discovered music, as strange as it can sound. I started listening to Opeth only in 2007 or so. I never heard Blackwater Park before. I never heard all those records. So when I fell in this music, I went like, wow. So in a way, like a guy like Ackerfeld and Wilson had a huge impact, I think, on the sound of Colored Sand because of their work. I was really inspired by their work, and also some of the classical music. I wanted to have a more descriptive sound instead of having riffs for riffs, one after the other. I wanted to make something maybe more transparent and more storytelling in a sound in the sound spectrum way, So that's why we ended up with songs with 6, 7, 8 minutes. So.
Yeah, not so. People have always sort of called you guys technical death metal, but in this album, it was more like a progressive death metal sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
But and in the middle of this brilliant album, you had this orchestral piece, The Battle, of course. Mm-hmm. It's such a unique and beautiful piece of the record. Yet,
thank you.
It feels essential to the strength and continuity of the record to have that where you did. Tell us about that track.
This track, I wanted, but first thing first, from a sound point of view, I'll tell you a little story. There's this friend of mine, and he's in his 60s, super open-minded guy. He got to see King Crimson live back in the days and everything. And he's an artist. He worked in the movie industry and stuff. And I often relate to him, like to play him like my new music and everything, just to have an impact, just to have an opinion from someone which is out of the metal world, but just to have his opinion as an artist. Period,
Right.
So I remember when I played him like the first 3-4 songs that I had pre-prod, he said, "This is cool, but the only thing that bothers me is that it's always loud." And that was like, wow, what a great comment, and I thought it was super constructive. And from that point of view, I'm going to come back to the orchestral piece. So the thing is, he said, "It's always loud." I said, wow, this is great. So at some point, I need to give like the listeners a break. Not that he needs a break, like, oh, this is exhausting, I can't listen to that record anymore, this and that. Not from that. Is that it's like in a movie, you have action, very dense action scenes, and then Ooh, it's calm. It's more. It's the calm after the storm, you know. So it's the same thing for the record. So by having a block of 3 songs, you know, with very dense metal orchestration, like, you know, electric guitars, distorted bass, and drum, that's very dense. And at some point, by having a total new orchestration coming in, that kind of washes the listener's ear from this electric orchestration, so to speak. So when you have the second block of 4 songs coming back, you know, it gives a lot of strength, you know, and to the music as well. It's like in classical music, you have climaxes and you have like mellower part and everything. So I wanted to do the same physical effect, but through the whole record, so to speak. So this piece, by having a string orchestration and everything, it really, for the time it lasts, it's like 4 minutes or so, 4 or 5 minutes. So the listener, that's long enough to take all the distortion and metal orchestration out of his ear, and that gives a lot of strength to the music coming back after, you know, and also from a concept point of view, that's the most important. I mean, they're all important topics in every song, but this piece is a description of the Chinese invasion of 1950 in Tibet. So that's a very, very important and very dramatic point in their history. And by having a very contrasting orchestration also for it, I thought it was an interesting subject for an instrumental. So
nice, it worked really well, and it's sort of like it's like having this great meal, and it's right in the middle. You sort of cleanse your oral palate, if you will, before you get into the second part of it.
Yeah,
and it made me wonder, for you, how important is song sequencing on a record from your perspective?
Oh, it's super important. It's like you write a book. You don't take chapters in the way the characters evolves in the story and everything. It's very, very, very important. And you know, when I write a song, when I write a new song for a record, for me, I put a lot of energy in beginnings and endings. Beginnings are super important. Let's say you write a book and all the chapters start the same way. At some point, you're going to bring confusions in the reader's head, you know, trying to follow up the story. So it's the same thing in music for me. Beginnings needs to be very distinctive, one from the other, like characters, which, okay, this is this character, you have this character here, and it's very clear. But when you have songs that always start pretty much the same, and it gets like it brings a too much linear effect to the record, and I don't like this. So to answer your question, also the sequencing the music is very important. It's like sequencing movements in a symphony or something. They have to be in a very particular order. So yeah.
So as a composer, I always wonder this, but especially on an album like this where you had so much going on. What was the most difficult track to create on Colored Sands?
That's a good question. They were pretty much all spontaneous, but I remember maybe the song Colored Sand. I remember being stuck, like at in the third of the song. You know, I remember I got stuck there for a bit, but mostly they were pretty much every song were pretty spontaneous. They just, you know, they got written pretty smoothly. So no, I don't remember being stuck for months and months, you know, on which happened before in the past. I remember when I wrote the song Inverted from Wisdom to Hate, I got stuck in this song for maybe 4 or 5 months. So and then boop, you know, that you just find the key and the right thing, and then when you achieve that, you're like, why didn't I see that before? You know, it's like obvious, but yeah, that's the mystery of composition, I guess.
Well, sometimes you can get too close to it, but well, this album lyrically was so deeply intellectual. There was some heavy topic on this. So I sort of wondered, because I believe I read somewhere that you had all the music written first. So did you find it difficult to mesh your lyrical ideas in with the music?
I've always wrote lyrics after music. I like this better. It's like, for instance, you write a song and then you want to write a lead in your song. So it's always better when you have like the canvas, the rhythmic canvas, and then you top it with a lead. It's the same thing for vocals for me, because vocals is an arrangement. You add like you add like a counterpoint in the music. So I never liked that. I mean, from my personal experience, having like lyrics and trying to squeeze them in the music, and sometimes, well, the length of the word doesn't really work, and sometimes it's more work to try to squeeze words in the music than having a musical canvas and write words on it, you know. So, and also for the first time, because before we used to write one or two songs, then I start writing on the lyrics, write more music, write more lyrics. But this time around, I wanted to have all the music written and done and recorded even, and then so I can only focus on words, because first thing first, also I'm French, and even if I can, you know, I can speak English and everything, it's okay, but I don't have the English of a person which would have studied literature and being born in an English country and everything. So the way of thinking, it's different from me being an outsider of this language and writing poetry in a language which is not your own. So that requires a lot of energy, because you ended up sometimes using a lot of the same words. So it's a more restricted vocabulary, and that really annoys me. I try to put a lot of energy in this, you know, to have a more diverse vocabulary so that's why I wanted to just focus on words, and it took me a bit over a year to write all those lyrics. And also I had to educate myself on the topic, so I bought a lot of books on Tibet, political books, which I didn't read much because it's such a complex subject. Bought a lot of books of photography because I couldn't, you know, do a trip to Tibet and go notice it and see it for myself. So through books, pictures, documentaries. So that's how it came all together. So yeah.
Nice. Now, prior to Colored Sands, you stated that you had no plans to make a new Gorguts record. With the success of last year's release, do you feel a reinvigorated sense that there is still more to achieve with the band now?
Oh, totally. I feel totally inspired, especially with the jamming with the boys as well. I mean, they are so amazing players, and I can't wait to write new music and to see, okay, what are we going to do now? I mean, I think it's important. Maybe, I don't know if in sports, if it's like this, because music is a team work as well as in sport or something. But me, I wonder if it's like this in a sports team, that you need to be very inspired by your acolytes, you know, and you know, his strength is this and his strength is that. So, and this being said, with these players, I have so much admiration for their talents. So it's like, for me, it's like writing a song, then sending this to them. Everything is possible from there. So yeah. So of course, I'd love to do at least one or two records again, for sure.
Nice.
For sure.
Well, that was sort of a nice segue, talking about being able to write something and send it over to them, because Gorguts was born in an era before Pro Tools and the like. How do you feel about the impersonal nature of technology and its impact on the art form of creating music?
Oh, but the technology had a huge importance in Colored Sands, because me living in Canada, I was writing music here, home, and just recording my guitar, my guitar track with a metronome. Right. Not even a click track. I plug my physical metronome in the computer, you know, and because I'm not much of a computer geek, you know, for Pro Tools and all those things, you know, which I want to learn in the upcoming years. But yeah, so I was writing here in Canada, just emailing the music to Colin and Kevin, and first thing I knew, they would email me back with all their music written, and we barely changed anything, even from those first drafts. So it was very spontaneous. And technology was an amazing tool. Imagine having to mailing tapes to each other. Right. So that's what we would have to do. We would have done in the 80s and early 90s.
Well, I have to say, you know, I talk to a lot of different musicians. I've been doing this for about as many years as the band's been around.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have musical intelligence, and by that I mean your writing goes beyond simple technical ability and your knowledge of the craft. You have an intuitive ability to pick the right notes, chords, and progressions in your writing, and that is tragic. That's a tragically rare gift these days. How do you cultivate that?
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. It's I think it's a matter of instinct, because also I didn't like that. I heard that very often. Gorguts music sounds this weird because Luc studied composition at the conservatory and everything. But you know what? We wrote Obscura and all this music way before I went to school. And me, when I went to school, it was just for my personal curiosity to learn, because I wanted to learn, counterpoint and orchestration and 4 parts harmonies and all those things. But the thing is that first thing first, composition, being a composer is a matter of instinct. It's like being an author, I think. It doesn't mean because you can write without any spelling mistakes that you're going to have a good story to tell,
Right.
So I think in music it's the very same thing. Because me, even guitar-wise, it's not technical what I play. You see youngsters, they're like 16 and 17-year-old. They're totally kicking my ass playing guitar, no problem. But to me, I had this phase in my early 20s. I was very interested in technicality on the instrument. But at some point, what got more my attention was composition as a craft, as ideas, than playing an instrument. Because those are two different things. Because me, if I don't write music, I'm not going to play guitar for the sake of playing guitar. I don't really enjoy this just for the sake of it. But I really enjoy it while we're writing music and we're doing arrangement. That just happened to be the tool to express my voice in the metal aesthetic, so to speak. So yeah, and also it's like if you paint, the more canvas you're going to work on, the better you're going to do. So the better you're going to be. So it's the same thing with music as well. I think it's roll up the sleeves and just write music. You don't wake up one morning and you know how to write music and write a song. You just need to be curious about it and be and push yourself and of course studying others people's work. This is amazing because and that's another thing. You can't wake up one day and know all about it. You need to study others people's work and say, oh, this is great, but what can I say with my voice with this tool? So we're all strong, different individuals. So and we have all different voices as artists. So we have a common tool, but everybody expresses himself with his personality. So yeah, so that's the way it worked for me, So it's a matter of curiosity. It's and a big matter of instinct, a lot of instinct, and self-critique. And you need to, like in school, I really like that when we were one-on-one in the class, the teacher and myself, in the composition class, and it was great to bring the work and say, what about you trying this here and trying this here, giving suggestions and everything. But at the end of the day, you need to sit down and write. So I think it's the same thing with literature and everything. So it's a matter of getting your imagination working and a lot of rigor as well. A lot of, you understand? Is rigor a right word?
Yeah.
You need to be rigorous, and very, that's how you evolve. You don't stay in your little comfort zone and just write the same song over and over again for 10, 15 years, so.
Beautiful. So sort of wrapping up and bringing it to a culmination here, can you give us 3 or 4 albums that changed your life musically?
The first one that I heard that got me buying a guitar and wanted to sing death metal was Scream Bloody Gore, the first Death record. This, and then after, when I heard does it has to be metal specifically, or it could be anything?
Any albums.
When I heard Shostakovich chamber music, string quartet 7 and 8, those were like a punch in the face as well. Then later on, I think from there, the Shostakovich got me to study classical music, and Chuck, Scream Bloody Gore, got me to become a death metal musician. I mean, and people, and you know what? I'll tell this, and that never changed throughout those years. And when I hear people say that art is no good, and sometimes when they find this stupid when a government would invest money in art, but then I tell you, what record or what book, can change someone's life. So art has such a strong power, more than what people can imagine, because those work totally changed my life. Because if I wouldn't have never heard those records, maybe I would have never done a Gorguts record. So and later, just to come back to your question, later in the 2000s is when I heard Steven Wilson's music. So those are the three artists that really influence, and there's many others as well, but on the top of my head, those would be and I was lucky enough to meet Wilson. I was lucky enough to meet Chuck as well, so I feel very lucky. I never got to meet Shostakovich for sure, but I was lucky enough to meet Penderecki twice as well, which is another Polish composer which I have total admiration, and he influenced my classical music writing 500%. So there's nothing like meeting your idols, huh?
Absolutely. It's an honor to have gotten to talk with you today. Luc from Gorguts, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an honor. We look forward to seeing what you do next. I'll let you get on with your day, but thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time and talking about the new album and everything else.
Thank you, Rustin. I totally appreciate sharing with you as well. And thanks for your work you do for our craft. This is great.